Okay, so just finishing up. Well, we got a little bit to go, but finishing up. So uh, see what I want to say. Yeah, I thought the book's review of men and women uh, as they're shown in movies, males and females, outfits, uh, just an interesting. It's always we kind of, I think most of us know. Um, that there's a huge environmental effect, constantly teaching children, constantly reinforcing gender messages that can be quite harmful. I think I'll probably talk a lot more about this when adolescence comes around. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about eating disorders. But in any case, very interesting and always kind of a bummer to be reminded. Um, Yep, kind of a bummer to be reminded, but important to understand. This is really, yeah, this is just really interesting and disheartening. Um, yep. But on a positive note, steady rise of women speaking. Um, so that's positive. Uh, Obviously sexualized female. Even at a glance, you can kind of get the sense that the legs are stretched out. She's obviously dressed in a unnecessarily sexualized way. Um, so parents. So I talked a little bit in an earlier video about the sort of work showing that parents matter less than we think they do. And I said the hard sell of that is way overstated. Um, but I think what's true is that as children get older, peers become powerfully important. And in a lot of ways, parents are more distant. However, this is really important. The evidence that parents monitor, now I'm kind of moving forward into adolescence a bit, the evidence continue to monitor, know who the friends are, know they where they are. Very strong evidence that that's good. I really think uh, I really think kids want their parents in their lives. They just don't want it. How to put it? They don't want to feel like it in the moment, but they do want that. They don't want to have you be seen in public with you, but they do really want you on their team. So monitoring. Then the book goes through the parenting styles. Let me get to the picture. Hmm. Um, you basically imagine two different continuums. One's a continuum from uh, um, one's a continuum of warmth, and another's the continuum of control. And you can make a little 2 by 2 box and you have four different outcomes and there are the outcomes. Um, neglected children do quite poorly because they're just essentially ignored. Permissive children have parents who are warm, but they just aren't able to set limits, aren't able to sort of parent like an adult. That is associated with poor outcomes. Authoritarian parents, because I said so. In fact, that was the first thing come to my mind, and I'm reminded that's what. So if you look at their descriptions, and the sort of in the on the graphic on 13.15, if you look at the descriptions, authoritative parents are not low in control. That's really important. Um, but they're using words, they're explaining to their child. Um, so you remember, I just think a point to remember is that parenting is always an opportunity to be sort of teaching, shaping, influencing the long-term goals for your child, as opposed to the immediate goals. Because I said so, do it now because I said so, will almost certainly win. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Kids, you can develop an oppositional relationship with your child, and it might cycle into a coercive cycle and not be effective. But my point being, even if it is effective in short term, there's no long-term sort of educational value for the child. I mean, educational broadly, moral development, why we do things. We do things for reasons. We have long-term goals. We have long-term ways that we want to be in the world. So these parenting styles, in a way, are simplistic. Here's how I would say that. Whenever you take something really complicated like parenting and then force parenting into one of four bins, you're being a little simplistic. I think it's reasonable to think that people could have a blend, a little, be a little more or less of a couple different things. That being said, this framework has done a lot of work. What do I mean by that? I mean, this framework has done a lot to predict outcomes. Really, really good long-term evidence that authoritative parenting is associated with better outcomes on average than authoritarian parenting, or the others for that matter. Yep, that's good enough. I think we've all seen, experienced, or, sort of vicarious, seen different sort of displays of parenting. You kind of know it when you see it. Um, and when you see a family that's really kind of in crisis, you can sort of imagine things are going on. All right, so relationships with peers. This is a uh, really interesting literature. Let me say a few things in a minute. We'll talk about peer acceptance, peer rejection, popularity. But kids, we're in middle school now. We're in middle school now in these slides. But I think we talked about this when we talked about elementary school. Kids who are peer rejected, even by first grade, it's a real sign of trouble. Um, Worth intervention for kids that are struggling with peers. Sort of intervention around like social cognitive skills. Um, help the kid uh, help the kid do a little better. Not it's and I don't mean to necessarily say that there's something wrong with the kid. There's lots of things that could be happening, but supporting the child for sure. So this you maybe know from other classes. People tend to choose people that are like them. The old saying opposites attract is mostly not true. So again, peer acceptance, peer rejection. There's a few different ways that this is measured. I think that's covered in the book nicely and important. One way to do it is go in and ask kids, who do you like? Who do you not like? And then they go and kind of do the math and figure out who gets a lot of likes, who gets a lot of dislikes. And then they judge whether the child is accepted. Um, they judge the peer status of the child, which is really interesting. Um, so controversial kids that are kind of getting lots of highs, lots of lows. This is the group that we're worried about, the most rejected group. Um, this was me through most of school, a pretty neglected kid. Not, it's the sort of kid I wasn't, no one was really bothering me, but a lot of people probably, but oh yeah, that guy, I guess I don't know anything about him. He's whatever. Popular is obviously can be protective for lots of things. Sociometric nomination, that's where they go in and they ask the children. Um, and let's see, but then they can build this kind of sociogram with the whole class, and you can see which kids are kind of calling the shots. You can see who's really struggling and whatnot. Popular. Often we break down different, uh, a couple different categories of popular. Neglected, again. Okay. Not at risk. That rings true to me. Just kind of like, yeah, shy, doing okay, but not popular by any means, but somehow managing not to get into trouble with other kids. Rejected kids. This is where a lot of study happens around rejected kids because either these are the kids that need an intervention. Some of them are aggressive, some of them are withdrawn, kind of the sort of two different ways in of responding to being rejected. And of course, being aggressive um, or withdrawn can be part of the reason you got rejected in the first place. And again, there's some good evidence that by school age, some of the traits that go that are associated with being likely to be aggressive are somewhat stable. And by that, I mean to emphasize that worth intervening on, worth intervening on to support the child, because without the support, unlikely it's likely to become just a long-term problem. Don't have that. Controversial again. Uh, interesting kids, probably just a mix of different things going on. Social exclusion. We have done cyberball. Um, we've been interested in cyberball in my research with my colleague. Really nice way of showing the impact of social exclusion on children, and actually they do it with adults as well. Um, very, very painful. The experience of being excluded by peers. I think for most of us, we can remember kind of middle school and remember how powerful this was potentially to be excluded. And this is just, I didn't say this. Matt Lieberman, he was a fellow graduate school when I was in my graduate program. Areas of the brain that respond to social exclusion are the same brain regions that are associated with pain, which is interesting. So social exclusion is like to the brain, it's like physical pain. Just kind of interesting. What happens so briefly in Cyberball, you're playing on a screen and you think these avatars represent real players elsewhere, kind of like as if you're online. And you're passing and there's a ball passing task. And at some point they just kind of like cut you out. And it's it's a manipulation because you're not really playing with people, but you think you are. And it's hurtful. Uh So let's see. What do I want to emphasize as we're getting toward the last stuff? Yeah. Okay. Cyberbullying. It's very much in the news now. I'm sure you all know this. Oh my goodness. Some of the potential ways kids can be bullied online now is upsetting, of course. And it's a demand for legal action. We don't have laws to support the ways in which children can be victimized by online content yet. We don't have enough laws, maybe I can say. Um, yeah, it's his last bit. Just, not just, I mean, of course, I'll post these slides, but I don't have a lot to add. Nice. Cascades. You can imagine all the things that we've talked about today. Peers, friends, emotional understanding, all of these things can interact and kind of snowball, which is one way to think of cascading, multiple things interacting and causing kind of a downstream significant change. Uh, yeah, lots of potential for cascades. So I think I said this at the beginning. I did. Um, in middle childhood, it's a mixed bag of what authors choose to cover because basically all the things that we're going to see emerge in development are there now. They're steadily developing. Lots of things covered in this chapter continue to develop into adulthood. Um, and they also are areas where we could study adult individual differences, meaning like, future-oriented thinking. So earlier on, there was a little bit on kids thinking into the future. Adults vary tremendously on how they are at that. Um, so lots, yeah, just looking at this cascade slide, now you can really understand how things that are happening in middle childhood powerfully, we're starting to see outcomes. We're starting to see things in motion that are going to be powerfully influential on outcomes, long-term outcomes. This is just an illustration of a cascade. Um, and the kind of thing you want to think about is interacting different domains of aspects of interacting and then moving across time toward, one kind of outcome or another, or multiple outcomes. Okay, so I'm going to stop there and we'll